Hello and welcome back to FPL Mate, your best mate for FPL during this pre-season break, if you like. Today I'm going to be talking about the most expensive players, my price predictions of who I think is going to be basically the most expensive players in FPL in the 2020-21 season. We're going to start from the bottom. We're going to go work our way up to the most expensive players. And yeah, I mentioned in my last video that I think this is going to be a pretty wild season in terms of loads of premium assets, and I think I'm going to try and tell you who I think are going to be those premium assets. I'm excluding any new signings, new transfers in this video because I want to do that in a separate video. Also, I'm not fully convinced any of them will be make the top 10, to be honest. I think there's so many other tried and tested players that will make the top 10, but yeah, we'll go through them anyway, and there will be more predictions videos just to come. So do stick around from them. Subscribe if you're not already. There'll be plenty more to come. So right, let's get straight into it. Joint ninth. I know I said top 10, but there's two ninths, so deal with it. Okay. So joint ninth is Martial. I'm predicting he's going to be a big 10 million player. So yes, every one of these 10 players is going to be 10 million or more, in my personal opinion. I could get this wrong completely. So Martial started off last season on 7.5, criminally undervalued at that price, and ended on 8.5. So he really did rise a hell of a lot during the season. I'm not sure what he was at sort of maximum. I think he did creep up a little bit higher than 8.5 at one point, but it's still such a big increase of a whole 1 million. And obviously he's changed position now. Well, we think he's going to change position now from midfielder to forward, and now we know that he's going to be the nailed-on main striker for Manchester United. That's a very, very premium position to be in. You're in one of the top teams, the team that is closing the gap on Liverpool and Manchester City. You know, Manchester City's main striker, Aguero, is going to be huge amounts. We know that. He has been every year. So now Martial performing really well in that forward position with all of these great creative players around him. He's got to be worth a little bit more than he was before. He was just one of the biggest bargains post-break. As soon as Bruno came in, Martial was just the bargain to be had. He was playing in midfield. He was just worth every penny. So his price, unfortunately for us, needs to be adjusted for that. And I don't see how you can put him as any less than 10 million as Manchester United's main striker. So there you go. That is that prediction. Now, moving on to my other joint ninth is Jamie Vardy, also at 10 million. Started off at 9 million last season, finished off at 9.7 million. So you could already see he's creeping up to that 10 million. I think he's actually spent most of the season, or not necessarily most of the season, but a big chunk of the season valued well over 10 million. So to set him at a start price of 10 million is really not that surprising. He was the top scorer in the whole league. Leicester much improved. I know it's easy to forget because late season Leicester weren't so potent, but there was that period where, you know, triple Leicester was so essential, and Vardy was an essential player, and that's why his value went from 9 to well above 10 for a large chunk of the season, sort of quarter way through the season to maybe until a few weeks before lockdown, maybe, where people would start to sell Vardy. But still, for the top scorer of the previous season, I don't think 10 million is unreasonable, particularly when you consider that Vardy was 10 million for such a long time of this season, and is finished on 9.7. So, you know, he's a 10 million player, right? Number 8, and it's Kane, it's Harry Kane. I've actually brought him down a little bit. So he started on 11 million, ended on 11 million last season. This season, I think he's going to start slightly lower at 10.5. I do think he could even go down as low as 10. It's no real surprise that overall he didn't have a great season. I know he finished the season really well. We can't really deny that. But sort of at the start of the season, he was basically getting all of his goals from penalties. He wasn't scoring nearly as much as the Harry Kane we expect. So overall, he's not really had a fantastic season. Spurs not looking nearly as good as everyone thought they would last season. Really disappointing. And, you know, the Jose Mourinho system was working at times, or was doing different things at different times. We didn't really know fully what was going on there. So Kane, his value's got to be lower, and particularly with all of his injury problems he has, he's just not worth 11 million anymore. And I think the guys at FPL Towers will recognise that and drop his price down just a little bit. So next up, number 7 is Bruno. Came in at January, 8 million, went all the way up to 9 million, but he's got to be 11 million, hasn't he? He's just... There was just such a sustained period after Bruno arrived where, I mean, right up to the end even, I mean, he was looking a little bit tired for just the final couple of games, but all the way up until then, he was absolutely smashing it every week, sort of getting KDB-esque scores. He was rivaling KDB as being arguably the most important player to have in your team, the first name in your team sheet. And for that reason, you've got to put his value up considerably. I think we all recognise that 8 million was way too low. I think 9 million, even that, was cheap for what he was offering at certain times in the season. I remember he was sort of getting 15 points for multiple games in a row. He'd get a 15-pointer after a 15-pointer. It's absolutely crazy. So 11 million, I think, suits him down to a T because he really is that good. And I can expect that he will be that price going into next season. Next up, I've got joint fourth. I know we've gone from 7th to joint 4th, but that's because I've just got so many fourths. All at 11.5. So my first one, I'll just say, is Sterling, 11.5. I know he started and ended at 12 million last season, and he was looking really good towards the end of the season as well, but overall his season was disappointing. Statistically, he actually looked pretty good. He was unlucky to not score as many goals as he could have done, and get as many assists as he could have done as well. But he did get a reasonably good score. But compared to the previous season, I don't know if he probably ended up with a similar score to the previous season. But overall, just a kind of a disappointing season for Sterling. I know I certainly didn't have him in my fantasy team for the vast majority of the season. I had him in at the start. He was good for a few weeks, and I took him out and moved to other premium assets like Mane and Salah and things like that. So, yeah, I think Sterling has to have a minor decrease. So I'm predicting that down to 11.5. And the next in number 4 is Aubameyang. Also another upgrade, really. But the reason why I want to give him an upgrade, I know it's kind of controversial, but I feel like he sort of has to have an upgrade of price if he's going to be moved into midfield. So this is on the basis that he has moved from a forward to a midfielder. As a midfielder, Aubameyang would quite literally be one of the top 3 scoring players of the season. Once he gets the clean sheet points, once he gets the extra points for goals, he just becomes so much more of a monster in terms of an FPL asset, and you have to increase his price to reflect that. So 11.5 is actually sort of, if he is a midfielder, 11.5 is actually cheap for him, I would say. I think at 11.5 million, I put Aubameyang straight into my team. Not sure necessarily first name on my team sheet, but he would have to come in at 11.5 just because I think he would offer so much value for that. If they stick him at 11 million and he's a midfielder, then, I mean, FPL Towers, they've lost the plot. That's the biggest bargain. Go for him. But yeah, anyway, that's my prediction on that one. And the final number 4, the 4 fours, no, it's 3 fours, is Aguero. So Aguero, 11.5 million. He started last season on 11.5. He did end on 12. But I think 11.5 is about right for him. I think that's true anyway. Yeah, I think 11.5 is about the right price for Aguero, to be honest. Yes, he is fantastic, but so injury prone, so much of a rotation risk, such a risky player to own. So he's got to be at that high price, but you can't put him at a super high price because he never has the final scores over the course of the season of the real premium guys. He won't match Salah, Mane, KDB for score, won't even match Aguero or Sterling, might not even match Bruno. So he does have to be high priced for the times where he does play, but over the course of the season, he's not like a super valuable player. So that's why I keep him at 11.5. Then, joint seconds. We've got 2 seconds. Both of them I'm putting at 12 million. First of all, Mane. No massive surprise here that Mane is in the top 3, even though he's joined second, so top 2 technically, I suppose. Yeah, I'm predicting him at 12. He started last season at 11.5, ended it on 12.1. For a lot of the season, Mane was, you know, well above 12, even like rivaling Salah for price. So in terms of differentiating between the Salah and Mane, who should be more expensive? They should be about as expensive as each other, really. They sort of balance out and score a little bit, don't they? Both really real valuable assets. And the fact that we spent so much of the season arguing about who should be on our team, Salah or Mane, choose between Salah or Mane, just proves that they're sort of on par. I don't think they're quite on par, but I would still prefer Salah, but they're still near enough there. So whereas last season there was a price difference of 1 million between them, I don't think there should be a price difference of 1 million between Salah and Mane anymore. I don't think that's fair. I think there should be much less. So that's what I'm predicting. But my other second is not Salah, it's KDB. I think KDB at 12 million, started on 9.5 last season, finished at 10.6. The very fact that KDB was at sort of over 50% ownership for 90% of the season proves that he was valued far too little. There shouldn't be a situation where a player's effective ownership, or ownership in general, is just that high. He shouldn't be that accessible. The idea of premiums is that you have to be very selective about what premiums you have. And if a player is that highly owned, that means they're offering clearly far too much value for money, and you've got to tighten that up. I know this is not really what we want to hear as FPL managers. We want to find nice bargains, don't we? But in reality, in terms of balancing the game, KDB, his price has got to be sky high. He was the top scoring player for the entire season. He's got to be, you know, in the top bracket of how much a player costs. 9.5 million for KDB was far too low. His finish of 10.6 was still really cheap for what he offered. We saw what he did in game week 38. So 12 million, that's what he should be, in my personal opinion. And then finally, Salah, number one. Mr. Salah, Mo Salah, 12.5 million. You know, started and finished at 12.5. I'm predicting another 12.5, so probably a pretty boring prediction, but he's my number one. I just think that's about right. The most premium player of the whole game. He's got the highest ceiling, hasn't he? He's playing in a dominant Liverpool team. He's the main man. He's on set pieces. You know, I could go on and on about how amazing Salah is, but we all know it at the end of the day. And he's got to be priced accordingly. I don't know if that might necessarily be too expensive for a lot of us. I don't know if a lot of people wouldn't opt for Salah, given that there's so many other really expensive options. But that makes things a little bit more interesting. Some people have Salah, some people won't. And he's just a super expensive player, well, the expensive player that you've got to try and work to get in your team. And when you do get him in your team, you get such good returns there. So that would be pretty awesome indeed, wouldn't it? So there we have it. Those are all my top 10. Those are my predictions for the most expensive players in this coming season. We'll see how wrong or how right I am, and we can soon revisit this, how badly I got it wrong or right, you never know. What do you guys think to any of those? Do you have any particular opinions on those? Have I put one player as far too expensive, or do you think I've put one player as far too cheap? Have I missed a player perhaps? Are you thinking maybe some of the other guys could catch up with these guys' prices? For example, do you think like a Jimenez or an Ings could be more valuable than Vardy? Do you think potentially that a Sancho or a Werner could make this top 10 when they do arrive? Well, they obviously already arrived. Werner's already arrived, certainly. But yeah, what do you think to that? Do you think I have missed anyone? What do you think to any of these prices? Tell me I'm wrong, and we can look at your comments later on and see if you got it right as well, and that'd be pretty fun. Right, that's the end of this video. If you did enjoy it, please do subscribe. We're going to be doing some more price predictions, I think, in the next couple of videos. Just while we're on the off season, we can't actually start building any squads yet. There is other stuff I guess we could talk about, and if you do have any suggestions, please do let me know. But we're going to do a couple of these price prediction videos because I think they're kind of fun. So yeah, subscribe if you're new, like the video if you like the video. That makes sense, doesn't it? And other than that, I guess I will see you later, mates. Hopefully see you on the next video. Bye bye.